Kellen Ward thought the hardest part of that night was saving a historic hotel from flooding before its grand reopening. He was wrong. The real moment came after midnight, when the woman who signed his paychecks sat frozen in his old station wagon. Sabine Harlow's townhouse was only steps away, its porch light glowing, but she would not open the door. Instead, the composed executive turned to the single father everyone at work overlooked and asked for one more drive. Kellen knew he should go home to his daughter. He knew one rumor could cost him everything, but he saw what no board member had noticed. Beneath Sabine's perfect control was a lonely woman, terrified of what waited inside. What happened on the lake road would force them to choose between the lives expected of them and the truth neither could keep buried. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Kellen Ward had spent 14 hours preventing other people's emergencies from becoming disasters. At 36, he was the night operations supervisor at Alder House, a century-old Chicago hotel that had been restored by Harlow and Finch Hospitality. He knew which service elevator shuddered in cold weather, which kitchen valve needed a quarter turn instead of force, and which employees were too proud to admit they needed a ride home. He also knew he was 43 minutes late relieving Mrs. Donnelly, the retired teacher across the hall who watched his 8-year-old daughter after school. At 10:17 that evening, a cracked coupling above the restored ballroom had sent water through a ceiling panel 20 minutes before the hotel's reopening dinner. Kellen shut the line, redirected the catering crew, and saved the hand-painted plaster by building a catch channel from banquet trays and plastic table covers. The guests never saw more than one damp corner. Sabine Harlow saw all of it. She was 34, the company's chief executive, and the kind of woman newspapers described as composed because they never stood close enough to notice the effort. Her dark auburn hair was cut in a polished jaw-length bob. A forest green tailored coat rested over a cream silk blouse and fitted black trousers. She moved through the opening with calm precision, thanking staff by name, while 2 board members whispered about selling the hotel before winter. Kellen had worked under her company for 3 years. They had spoken perhaps 12 times. She remembered figures, deadlines, and failures. He had assumed she did not remember him. Near midnight, the final donor left. The ballroom chandeliers dimmed, and Sabine found Kellen kneeling beside the repaired pipe with a wrench in one capable hand and a video call open on his phone. Penny Ward filled the screen. She had a cloud of dark curls, green glasses, and a missing front tooth she displayed whenever she wanted her father to stop looking serious. "Did the fancy hotel explode?" she asked. "Not tonight." "Did you eat?" Kellen looked at the untouched sandwich beside his toolbox. Penny narrowed her eyes. "That means no." Sabine turned away before they noticed her. But not before Penny said, "Bring the moon home. It keeps bad dreams out of the car." The moon was a small crescent Penny had cut from silver gift paper and tied to the rearview mirror of Kellen's old navy blue Volvo wagon. It twisted whenever the heater came on. The car had faded paint, a careful engine, and enough crumbs beneath the back seat to identify every snack Penny had loved since kindergarten. Kellen was packing his tools when Sabine's assistant hurried back into the lobby. The hired driver had left after his allowed hours. A freezing rain had started, rides were canceling, and Sabine's phone battery was nearly dead. "I can take you," Kellen said. Sabine looked at his work jacket, then at the rain silvering the glass doors. "You have a child waiting. I have a neighbor who deserves an honest arrival time. Your house is 12 minutes from mine. You know where I live? I know every emergency contact address in the operations binder." For the first time that night, Sabine smiled without planning it. The Volvo smelled faintly of cedar, coffee, and Penny's strawberry hand lotion. Sabine folded her long coat around herself and sat beneath a paper solar system taped across the passenger side roof. Kellen drove with both hands steady on the wheel. He did not fill the silence simply because she was important. They crossed the river, while wet streets reflected red brake lights. Sabine asked about the pipe. Kellen explained that the failure was not sudden. He had submitted replacement requests twice, but regional management delayed them until after the opening budget closed. "Why didn't that reach me?" she asked. "Probably because a repaired disaster photographs better than preventive maintenance." She looked at him, expecting resentment. His face held only tired honesty. At 12:48, they reached her stone townhouse near the lake. Kellen stopped beneath the automatic porch light. Sabine unfastened her seatbelt but did not move. Her hand remained on the buckle, her pale gray eyes fixed on the dark windows. Then she asked him to drive again. Kellen took the lake road because Sabine had asked, and because there are moments when kindness matters more than a schedule. He texted Mrs. Donnelly at a red light. "Home by 2. I am sorry." Her answer arrived before the light changed. "Penny is asleep. Stop apologizing and drive safely." The silver paper moon turned slowly above the dashboard. For several blocks, Sabine watched the black water beyond the windshield. The towers behind them grew smaller in the mirrors. Without the hotel staff, board members, and photographers, she seemed younger and far less certain. "Alder House belonged to my mother," she said. "Not legally, emotionally. She found it when the roof was failing, and pigeons lived in the ballroom. Everyone told her to tear it down." "Leona Harlow," Kellen said. "Her name is on the old restoration drawings." Sabine looked surprised. "You read those? Old buildings tell you what they need if you read what people did to them." Her mother had died 11 months earlier. The board pushed Sabine to reopen Alder House on Leona's birthday, then sell it while the publicity was strong. Sabine had worked toward the opening so fiercely that grief became another appointment she could postpone. "The sale papers are on my dining table," she said. "If I sign them tomorrow, the company becomes safer. The board calls that leadership. What do you call it?" "Selling the last place where my mother sounded happy." Kellen did not tell her what decision to make. He understood how grief made objects carry impossible weight. After Penny's mother died from a sudden heart condition 4 years earlier, he had kept her chipped yellow mug beside the sink for 7 months. One morning, Penny poured apple juice into it. Kellen nearly shouted, then saw her small hands shaking. That was when he learned memory could not be protected by keeping life away from it. "I still own the mug," he said. "Penny uses it for paint water now." Sabine gave a quiet laugh that broke halfway through. She covered her mouth, embarrassed by the sound. "You are allowed to laugh when you're sad," Kellen said. "My board would request a risk assessment." "Then don't invite them." They stopped at a 24-hour diner where Kellen sometimes took Penny after late school concerts. The waitress knew his order and raised an eyebrow at his elegant passenger, but asked no questions. Sabine traded her coat for the warm booth, rolled her sleeves once, and ate grilled cheese with tomato soup instead of the untouched plated dinner. Kellen noticed a faint white scar across the inside of her wrist. Sabine noticed him notice and rested her hand on the table instead of hiding it. "Kitchen fire when I was 14, she said. "My mother blamed herself because she was at Alder House that night. After that, every time she worked late, I made her promise to call me from the car." "Did she?" "Every time. Even when I stopped answering." The regret sat between them. Kellen did not soften it with an easy sentence. His phone vibrated. Penny had sent a voice message in her sleep-softened voice. "Dad, Mrs. Donnelly says you're helping someone. Make sure they have a blanket. The blue one is clean." Sabine looked toward the folded child's blanket on the back seat of the Volvo, visible through the window. Her eyes filled, but she smiled. "She assumes everyone is cold," Kellen said. "Maybe she's usually right." Sabine asked why he had never applied for the vacant Director of Building Operations role. Kellen told her he had. His proposal included phased maintenance, a staff transport fund, and a supervised evening room for employees whose shifts ran past childcare hours. The regional director said it was too personal and lacked executive polish. "It was personal," Kellen said. "Half our night staff are parents. Personal problems become operational problems when leadership refuses to see them." Sabine went still. "Send me the proposal." "Not tonight." "Why?" "Because tonight you're a tired woman eating soup. Tomorrow you can be my chief executive again. I don't want one honest conversation turned into a favor." No one had spoken to her with such care and such boundaries in the same breath. The look she gave him was warmer than gratitude and more dangerous than attraction, because it contained trust. At 1:39, Kellen drove her home a second time. This time Sabine opened her door. Before stepping out, she touched the silver moon with one finger. "Tell Penny it worked," she said. "What did?" "It kept the bad dream out of the car." The next morning, Kellen emailed his proposal through the normal review system. Sabine acknowledged it with one formal sentence and copied the chief people officer and the board's operations committee. She also disclosed that he had driven her home after a company event. By noon, the regional director had called Kellen into a glass meeting room. "You put the chief executive in a difficult position," she said. Kellen kept his voice even. "I gave a stranded employee a ride. She is not an employee like the rest of us. Last night, she was." The director slid his proposal back across the table. "Withdraw this before people misunderstand why she is reading it." Kellen looked at the pages he had built over 18 months, then at the woman protecting a hierarchy she understood. "No," he said. "Let them read it in daylight." Kellen's proposal did not become brilliant because Sabine had shared soup with him. It became visible because she refused to let it remain buried. She recused herself from the first scoring round. The operations committee removed names from the submissions and compared cost, safety, staff retention, and projected downtime. Kellen's plan ranked first. It used the hotel's existing service wing for an evening family room, partnered with a licensed neighborhood childcare provider, and replaced emergency repairs with a staged preventive schedule. The numbers showed that Alder House could remain open without draining the rest of the company. The regional director had not acted out of cruelty. She had been protecting a narrow budget and an older idea of professionalism. When the committee questioned her, she admitted she had dismissed Kellen's plan too quickly. She remained with the company under a new review process and apologized to him privately. "I thought your life was distracting you from the work," she said. "My life taught me how the work fails people," Kellen replied. 3 days later, Kellen presented to the board in the same ballroom he had saved from water. He wore a dark brown suit that fit his long, athletic frame and left his copper-brown hair slightly unruly, because Penny said perfectly combed hair made him look like a stranger. Sabine sat at the far end of the table in a midnight blue dress and said nothing until the questions ended. One board member asked whether childcare belonged inside a luxury hotel. "Children already belong to the people who keep this hotel running," Kellen said. "We can account for that reality safely, or keep paying for the emergencies created when we ignore it." There was no applause. There were follow-up questions, revised forecasts, and a long, closed discussion. By evening, the board postponed the sale for 1 year and approved a pilot of Kellen's plan. Sabine found him afterward beside the service elevator. For once, neither of them was rushing. "You were right," she said. "It needed daylight. And distance. Thank you for giving it both." She held his gaze. "I also need to be honest about the drive." Kellen's expression changed, almost too slightly to see. "I have thought about it every night," she continued. "Not because you rescued me, you didn't. You treated me like a person, when I had forgotten how to be one. Sabine, I know the position I'm in. I won't ask you for anything while your work answers to me." Relief and disappointment moved through him together. "Good, because I won't build something real in a place where you can never be sure I was free to say no." She nodded. The answer hurt, but it also made the feeling between them safer. The year changed them slowly. Kellen led the Alder House pilot through the operations committee rather than Sabine. The evening family room opened with low shelves, quiet lamps, and a wall where children could pin drawings. Penny placed the first one there, a silver moon above a blue car. Staff turnover dropped, maintenance costs steadied. Guest complaints fell because exhausted employees were no longer being asked to hide impossible choices behind service smiles. Sabine kept Alder House. She moved her mother's old drafting table into the lobby library and placed the restored plans beneath glass, not as a shrine but as part of a building still being used. She began answering calls from her sister. She spent one evening each week away from her phone. Grief did not disappear, but it stopped controlling the calendar. Kellen discovered that his proposal had become larger than one hotel. With encouragement from the committee, not money from Sabine, he formed Ward Night Operations, a small consultancy helping historic properties design safer maintenance and family support systems. He won his first 3 contracts through an independent tender. Alder House was the 4th. On the day he signed that contract, Kellen was no longer Sabine's employee. He found her after the meeting in the hotel courtyard, where early spring rain shone on the stone. She wore a fitted ivory dress beneath a camel coat, polished but softer than the woman who had sat frozen in his passenger seat. "Would dinner create an ethics report?" he asked. "A short one," she said. "I can live with that." Their first date was not in a private dining room. Sabine chose the 24-hour diner. Penny helped Kellen select a clean black Henley and warned him not to discuss boilers for more than 10 minutes. He lasted 11. Nothing happened quickly. Sabine learned that Penny hated peas, loved astronomy, and needed time before trusting anyone near the memories of her mother. Kellen learned Sabine became quiet on birthdays, burned toast when distracted, and read old building plans the way other people read letters. 6 months later, Alder House celebrated its first profitable quarter with a small staff dinner. Penny attended in a silver skirt and green glasses. She gave Sabine a new paper moon, made from the foil lining of a gift bag. "The old one is tired," Penny explained. "This one is for both of you." After dinner, Kellen drove Sabine home in the same navy Volvo. The paper moon turned above them. Penny slept in the back seat under the clean blue blanket, one sneaker resting against a box of leftover cake. Kellen stopped beneath Sabine's porch light. This time the windows were warm. A lamp glowed beside her mother's drafting chair. Sabine unfastened her seatbelt, then looked at Kellen. "She's asleep," Kellen whispered. "I know. And you actually want to go inside now." Sabine smiled. "I do." She reached back and tucked the blanket around Penny's shoulder. Then she rested her hand over Kellen's on the center console. "But maybe we can take one more drive first." Kellen looked at the silver moon, at Penny safe behind them, and at the woman who no longer needed the road to escape her life. "The lake road?" he asked. "The longer way." He put the car in gear. Together, they drove past the porch light and into the quiet city. Not because either of them feared the night ending, but because they finally had somewhere warm to return to.